well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad that you've joined us today. We've got a good show for you. Dennis Santiago is going to join us, a writer at RedState. He's got a very interesting piece talking about a big concern for not just gun owners, but for the firearms industry, access to funds, access to credit card processing. This has been under increasing scrutiny over the last few years, going back to the Obama administration with a program called Operation Choke Point, in which financial institutions were encouraged, and in some cases strong-armed, into not doing business with entities within the firearms industry, as well as, payday lenders and other syndustries, quote unquote, disfavored industries. Now we are seeing that move not necessarily come from the government, although that could change if Joe Biden is elected. But now it's a lot of private pressure being put on these financial institutions, and there is a big one that looks like could soon buckle under the pressure from anti-gun activists. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Before we do, however, the Trump campaign with a special offer just for you. President Trump really wants to give you a signed 2020 Make America Great Again hat. He wants to make sure that the lucky winner is one of his top supporters. So be sure to enter soon, because this is an opportunity that you will not want to miss. Offer is only going to a select group of supporters. You are one of them. And all you have to do is text ARMS to 88022 today for your chance to win a signed 2020 Make America Great Again hat and own a piece of history. Again, that is ARMS to 88022 today to enter to win this contest and join President Trump in the fight to keep America great for 4 more years. Paid for by Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated. So let's get to our conversation with Dennis Santiago of RedState, talking about a very important meeting today. And again, the potential devastating consequences that this meeting might have for the firearms industry going forward. Take a look and a listen. Dennis Santiago, thank you, sir, for coming on the program. It's good talking with you today.
Yeah. How you doing, Cam? I haven't talked to you since the SHOT Show in the January.
I know. It's and I'm doing okay. I hope that you're doing well, and hopefully we'll get a chance to get together at SHOT Show 2021, although I don't know for sure that that's going to happen or not, but that's still a few months away. I guess we can see what happens here. But you've got a great piece at RedState that I think every gun owner needs to read about. We've been talking a lot about the shortage of firearms and ammunition right now. That's really due just to the record high demand, as well as some supply chain issues that you're starting to run into, particularly when it comes to ammunition manufacturing. But this piece at RedState talks about the chilling effect that gun control advocates want to place on the firearms industry from the other direction. They want to cut off the supply of funds to the firearms industry. And it sounds like today's going to be a pretty big day for a pretty big financial institution that does a lot of business with the firearms industry, Wells Fargo. What can you tell us?
Well, going back, this whole thing started with something called Operation Choke Point, and that was an attempt by the government to corral drug trafficking back in the day. Or it turned out that the program went very badly in that the banks being nervous Nellies, turned that into a reason to shy away from any industry that looked like it created risk for them, and the firearms industry was one of them. The program ended in disaster, and instructions from the regulatory community came out somewhere around 2015 to stop doing that, and that there is a necessity for fairness and access to the financial infrastructure of the U.S. that the banks have a fiduciary responsibility to have. And what happened was in 2016, when Donald Trump got elected, the anti-gunners basically said, the heck with the government saying that Operation Choke Point was no good. We'll create a private one. And they started going into boards of directors and operating committees and slowly but surely got some of the bigger banks and other financial institutions to continue the Operation Choke Point policies in a defiance, essentially, of what the government regulator said their duty was. And so here we are today, out of the banks that came out of that 2015 ruling. Wells Fargo was the one that basically said, no, we're not going to discriminate. We are going to let market forces and fairness and access rule the day. Unfortunately for Wells Fargo, that was also the time that they got caught opening accounts for people, and their CEO was driven from the industry and actually has a lifetime ban on participating in any finance and banking activity on him at this point. There's 3 CEOs down the line. Their current CEO is the 2 CEOs before had a policy of maintaining the fair access for Wells Fargo, but this one has, I think, been listening to his environmental and social responsibility group a little bit too much, and they are today, whether they actually get to this item on their agenda or not, supposedly going to consider adopting policies that would preclude them from working with companies that produce what you and I would call modern sporting rifles and what the other press corps would call assault weapons.
Okay. Now, if Wells Fargo does this, and you and I are talking before this meeting takes place, so we'll provide an update for folks on Fridays at Bearing Arms Cam and Company. But if Wells Fargo does do this, Dennis, I mean, given the other institutions that have already taken these steps, what kind of impact is this likely to have on the firearms industry in terms of being able to get, finance if they want to build out a new factory, they want to upgrade equipment? I mean, it really sounds like, again, their access to capital is being choked off right now, and that could ultimately result in a choking off of our ability to acquire some of these modern sporting firearms.
It would. I mean, and there's 2 things that this would have a chilling effect on, because it would cut off the ability of many companies in the firearms industry to get access to the one thing they really need, credit card processing services. And if you can't process credit cards, or can't process sales, that essentially breaks your ability to do business. The other thing that it does is it makes it so it's difficult to take out capital loans. And, for things like, hey, I need a forklift because demand is so high, I need an extra one in the warehouse to move things around and get it to the truck so it can ship out. Even that kind of stuff can be impacted, because if they won't fund loans and they won't process your credit card sales, it's a debilitating effect on business. And the U.S. banking regulators have been pretty clear about the fact that you're not supposed to do that kind of stuff to legitimate businesses that are operating within the law.
Yeah,
so it could be bad.
Absolutely. Now, you do say that regulators are aware and they're asking questions. Just a few days ago, about a week or so ago, I guess, July 24th, you say Acting Comptroller of the Currency, Brian P. Brooks, responded to a letter of inquiry by Senator Dan Sullivan from Alaska, addressing the question of business discrimination by banks. Specifically, Sullivan was asking about discrimination against the oil and gas industry. But you say that in that letter, Brooks specifically mentioned Operation Choke Point, saying, quote, "I had hoped that the banking industry's experience with and the eventual discrediting of Operation Choke Point would be a sufficient object lesson about the perils of discriminating against businesses that, while unpopular to some, are nevertheless legal for all and demanded by many in our market economy." Unfortunately, your letter, he said to Senator Sullivan, Representative Sullivan, suggested that might not have been the case. So, you talk about this being a quote, carefully calculated blast from a shotgun wielded by the sheriff of the banks. How so?
Well, so Brooks is, in my opinion, one of the smartest and most focused guys to ever be comptroller of the currency. And the office of the comptroller of the currency is the cop that oversees operations at the bank, and they are the people that can go in there. They can tell you you're going to change your practices to do this, and their instructions carry the weight of law when they give you the instructions. Because the U.S. Banking Act is a little bit different from other parts of U.S. law. Regulators, when they say go do this, you have no choice, and they can. Among the things they can do is they can sanction you. They can give you cease and desist orders. They can throw you out of the banking business if they feel like it. And there are rumblings in Congress of different senators and representatives that are asking questions. It turns out that this kind of discriminatory business practice is going on in a lot of what people would call the industries, the disfavored industries of the United States, oil and gas exploration being one of them, firearms being another, and it ranges. I mean, it's all the way to things like the cannabis issue are all part of this thing, payday lending. And the regulators are basically committed to saying that fair and equal access to legal businesses is an important thing for the stability of the U.S. economy. The regulators are right. The banks, I think, are listening too much to activists inside their own organizations, and so there's a trade-off being made between keeping peace with the mob, the guys running around in the streets, carrying signs and doing whatever it is they do in the middle of the night, closing freeways and getting hit by cars. But the banks are playing chicken, because if the regulators decide to act, it's going to hit them, and it's going to hit them pretty hard. And bank regulators are not shy about hitting you over the head, which is, where I come up with the both barrels thing, because it's ironic, because Wells Fargo's symbol is a stagecoach being protected by a guy riding shotgun on top of it.
Yeah, that's right. Who knows? Maybe they'll take that shotgun away from Wells Fargo. I'm curious. I mean, so right now it seems like the regulators are paying attention. The regulators could act. We obviously have an election coming up here in just a few months. Who appoints these regulators? And if Joe Biden wins in November, are we going to have a new sheriff overseeing these banks, one who might be more amenable to the idea of these banks discriminated against the firearms industry?
Yeah, it is very possible. The Office of the Comptroller of Currency is part of the U.S. Treasury Department and is under the control of the executive branch. So that makes the 2020 election pretty crucial.
Yeah.
To the direction that things go, not just for the firearms industry, but for all of these disfavored industries. And it's a bit more impactful on the lives and the economy of the United States than would appear. And I'm covering it from one aspect of it, which is starting from the firearms piece. Mm-hmm. But this goes much deeper into the economy.
Well, and it seems like, look, we just saw the GDP numbers for the second quarter. Not good. We knew that they would not be. But it seems to me that if you're interested in a strong economic recovery, one of the things you want to do is you want to help those industries, not only the ones that are struggling right now, but frankly, the ones that are doing pretty well. You want to ensure that they continue to do well. The firearms industry has been a bright spot in the U.S. economy with record high sales over the last few months. To me, I mean, unless you are just so anti-gun that you are willing to, crater the economies of frankly, not just the United States, but a lot of, in particular, a lot of these small towns and a lot of these communities where these firearms manufacturers are located. I mean, unless that's your number one objective, even if you're agnostic on the issue of firearms, I would think right now you'd want to be supportive of any industry in the United States that is hiring, putting people to work, and keeping them employed at this point in time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, even from a banking standpoint, right? I mean, the part that I don't get is in this is that, so you've got the banking industry, which is currently worried about whether or not all their commercial real estate loans, because, people are, about 20% of the workforce is never going to go back to their office, because we just figured out that that a lot of people can work from home. So, and commercial real estate is a big part of the asset portfolio of banks. And so they need other stuff to put into their loan deck that is from industries that are solid and stable. And, firearms industry is one of them right now. I mean, the only thing that sells a clear shelf of inventory faster than toilet paper is ammo. Come on.
Right.
The supply chain problems for ammunition are as bad as Charmin toilet paper. Just give me a break.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I mean, you would want to be bringing in to your portfolio all the kinds of businesses and industries that are prospering under these conditions, because, people aren't really sure that these conditions are going to go away anytime soon. Like, we're not sure we're going to see each other at SHOT in 2021. And, but so why wouldn't you want to bulk up? I mean, this is money. This is not politics. And it's the survival of a business institutions, banking institutions in this country. It doesn't make any sense from the point of view of thinking about it objectively. But it has to be some sort of purely political ploy that has to do with the comfort zone, I think, of the ESRG departments inside these banks, which kind of have people in them that think closer to the New York Times than they do to the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what is it they say? Get woke, go broke. Right. And
pretty much.
Hopefully, the firearms industry is not going to be the latest example of that. Again, Dennis, it's a great piece of RedState. I want every gun owner to check it out. It is really good to talk with you again, sir. I'm glad we're able to catch up. Hope we can do this. Let's not wait another, 7 or 8 months to do this. Let's have you back again here very soon.
That sounds good to me, my friend, and it's good to hear your voice.
It's great to talk with you as well. Dennis Santiago from RedState joining us here on Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. All right, so we'll get you caught up tomorrow on what happened at that Wells Fargo meeting today. In the meantime, let's get to today's armed citizen story, our good deed of the day, our recidivist report. Before we do, however, just another reminder that the Trump campaign has a special offer just for you. President Trump really wants to give you a signed 2020 Make America Great Again hat. And he wants to make sure that the winner of this contest is one of his top supporters, so be sure to enter soon. Because this is an opportunity that you don't want to miss. Offer is only going to a select group of supporters. You are one of them. And here's how you do it. All you have to do is text ARMS to 88022 today for your chance to win that signed 2020 Make America Great Again hat and own a piece of history. Again, that is ARMS to 88022 today. Winner to win this contest and to join President Trump in the fight to keep America great for 4 more years. Paid for by Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated. All right, so let's get to our armed citizen story, good deed of the day. We'll start, though, with our recidivist report. Story out of Seattle, Washington, KOMO, reporting that a suspect in a motel murder, yep, there you see it, 48 previous convictions, including slitting the throat of a teenage girl back in 1992. This suspect was arrested, identified in court records as Lerone Deshaun Charles, 48 years of age. You'd think with, 48 previous convictions, gotta be like 90. But no, a conviction for every year of his life. Lerone Deshaun James, tracked down and taken into custody Saturday night in Kent, Washington, charged with second-degree murder, unlawful possession of a firearm, as well as second-degree assault in connection with the shooting at the motel. According to court records in the case, Charles allegedly shot and killed 49-year-old Anthony Parker at the Everspring Inn around 4 a.m. on July 21st after the two got into a confrontation. Parker was also armed. Charles shot first, hitting Parker 3 times. The fatal shot went through Parker's lung, heart, and liver. According to KOMO, court records show that Charles has a lengthy criminal record, including 6 previous adult felony convictions, 36 misdemeanor convictions, 6 juvenile felony convictions as well. In 1992, he was given a sentence of 17 and a half years in prison for kidnapping and violently assaulting a 16-year-old girl who was walking home from school. According to the case file, Charles and 2 other buddies choked the girl until she passed out, then threw her into the trunk of a car after trying to sexually assault her and threatening to kill her. He drove the girl to Federal Way, Washington, pulled her out of the trunk, kicked her, beat her in the face and head, then grabbed a knife, slit her throat, and threw her into a dumpster, leaving her for dead. The girl was somehow able to crawl out of that dumpster, naked and bleeding, taken to a hospital. The emergency room surgeon said the throat injury came very close to her carotid artery and that she was lucky to be alive. Right now, Charles has 2 other pending cases against him, one for possession of heroin and methamphetamine, as well as a charge of possession of a stolen vehicle. Failed to appear in court for either of those cases. Now prosecutors are seeking $5 million bail due to Charles' extensive criminal history and the likelihood that he would fail to appear in court if he was released from jail. I think that is probably a good idea. Now, the real question is, why was he out on the streets to begin with? Our armed citizen story today comes from the Daily Chattanoogan in Tennessee, reporting that the Whitfield County Sheriff's Office investigated a robbery that actually occurred at the Pilot Travel Center outside of the business in the back parking lot involving a truck driver. Authorities say that truck driver was strong-armed by 4 separate assailants who had teamed up to attack him. During the struggle, the victim retrieved a handgun that he had on him, shooting at one of the assailants. Once the victim began shooting, police say all the assailants dispersed. Yep. One of the robbers fled in a gold Chrysler Town & Country. The other 3 took off on foot. A Bolo alert broadcast for that Chrysler. But right now, nobody in custody. Victims sustained no injuries during the robbery, nor were any of the suspects or bystanders injured accordingly. Actually, I take it back. There was one suspect that's been taken into custody, 52-year-old Walter Wathen, taken into custody without the incident. They did find that Chrysler, but the 3 who fled on foot, they have no indication where those individuals might be. Again, the good news is that the presence of that firearm was enough to stop the attack. Thankfully, the victim in this case was not injured, and hopefully justice will soon be served. Now, finally today, our good deed of the day. And this is not a good deed of the day. This is really probably a series of good deeds built up over decades. I ran across this post on Facebook from the Fort Worth Police Officers Association, congratulating Officer Marion Mad Dog Collinsworth on his retirement from the Fort Worth Police Department after 33 years of honorable service to this city, saying we wish him the best in his retirement. He will be truly missed. That final call recorded on camera. Take a look at this.
Lincoln 514, 24 and 62 for the last time.
Lincoln 514, Mad Dog Collinsworth, ID 2400. We want to thank you for your 33 years of service to the Fort Worth Police Department. We hope you enjoy this next chapter of your life, and we look forward to hearing you on the dirt bike on the trail. You will be missed. Last time checking out at 1533.
Lincoln 514 clear. It's been an honor to serve the city for the last 33 years, and thank you for the officers and the dispatchers for keeping me safe. Thank you.
You'll be missed.
If you did not get at least a little choked up watching that, you might want to go contact a doctor, because I think there might be something wrong right there in the feels. Yeah. Again, Officer Collinsworth, after 33 years of service, I'm sure there were a lot of good deeds performed over those decades, and we certainly do thank you for your service, sir. That is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program, as always. We'll be back tomorrow with another look at the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation, including an update again as to what happens at that Wells Fargo meeting today. In the meantime, don't forget, you can subscribe to Town Hall Media. That way you never miss one of these programs. You also will get access to all kinds of great stuff, including my colleague Katie Pavlich's interview with President Trump recently. You can subscribe to Bearing Arms Cam & Company on Apple Podcasts as well. And don't forget to check out bearingarms.com throughout the day for the latest news that you need to know about your right to keep and bear arms. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, be safe, be well, be free. And we'll see you soon with another edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company.